Hey there everyone, what's up? I am back today with a slightly better eye and another impressions video. So, again, my from the last video, I don't have to wear the eye patch anymore. That's pretty cool. And my eye is still maybe 25% swollen shut, but it's not as bad as it was, and it's not bloody anymore, I guess. So that's a that's a bonus. So I still have to wear the glasses though, so you probably can't even see the slightly malformed eye because of glare. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna talk about that anymore. What I'm gonna talk about today is this impressions on this game. This is Ryuga Gotoku Ishin, or Yakuza Restoration, as I assume it would be translated if it were going to be localized. Um, I'm kind of late on this only because I finished it like 2 weeks ago. I should have, but I actually did record an impressions video already, and what happened was I actually recorded it before I damaged my eye, and like what happened was it cut off like right near the end, and I was like, I'll just record the last couple minutes of the video and then edit it in, and then like my I damaged my eyes, so it was kind of like I could have this weird moment where it was not there was like obviously two different videos, but whatever. So I'm just redoing it, and we've got this game. This is I actually bought the PS4 for this game. It's of course it is on the PS3, but I just figured I'd get the best version, so I went for the PS4 and the PS4 version. This is the only game I have for the PS4, and the only game I'll probably have for the next month or so before Natural Doctrine comes out. But anyway, Yakuza Ishin starts. What can I say, really? I don't really want to go into the story that much because it is utterly complicated, and to give away the even like the main base points like kind of ruins the story. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but you can be assured that if you've played any of the Yakuza games, you know that there's going to be all types of weird swerves and story things going on that are just going to confuse you or blow your mind in some way. And this game is full of that. It's full of that, and it's like got the extra layer of being based on historical figures. So you've got this bizarre like 3 layers of stories going on, and it's done really well. It's just confusing. It's confusing, especially if you don't know Japanese history. And like, I'm not saying I knew all this stuff already. Like every time new characters were introduced in the game, I was looking up everybody on Wikipedia. It was like, it's that kind of game, even though it doesn't actually match even remotely close to actual history. All the characters are historical figures. So I mean, you can imagine like if you played Assassin's Creed 3 or something, and you didn't know any of the you're not American, so you never studied like the Revolutionary War. You would like never know probably who some of the characters that show up are. So it's that kind of thing, because these are all historical figures that Japanese people are at least familiar with. They had to study them in school. But anyway, it takes place with your main character is Sakamoto Ryoma, who is people like they tend to think of him as like a founding father of modern Japan or whatever. It's not. That's probably like an oversimplification, but you can imagine it that way if you want to think about it. And you're playing the game, and actually the game takes place originally in Tosa, which is part of Shikoku, and then it moves to Kyoto after the beginning scene. So most of the game takes place in Kyoto, and you're kind of running around doing a lot of missions and things, which is standard Yakuza fare. Except, of course, this game is set in the Bakumatsu period, which is like the end period of the samurai era in Japan and the beginning of the Meiji Restoration, hence the name Restoration, or Ishin in this case. But anyway, that's almost none of that is important. The story here is essentially you are playing Sakamoto Ryoma in disguise, and see, it gets confusing because he's playing essentially. There's like this bizarre layering going on with the characters, where you have the Yakuza character, and then they all keep their kind of Yakuza character um, attitudes, I guess, for the most part. Like they're the same character essentially from the Yakuza games, except they're pasted over these historical figures who are then later on pasted over other historical figures. It's really bizarre. It's got this weird theme going on where you play through and everything has this weird layer upon layer of characterization for each character. I said character there too many times, I think. But all the characters have these like this one person is this one person who's another person who's another person. It's a weird theme in the game where almost all the characters are like that, and that's like some of the surprises in the story. But it's also like something you you'd like need a flowchart to keep track of. But that's just the story. The story is awesome. It's really interesting and fun, and it's nothing like history. So if you're really into Japanese history and you're like, I'm going to play this game to get a taste of history, you're going to be really disappointed. But if you're going to play it with that it's kind of like a, speculative fiction kind of history, then it's fun and it's enjoyable. Especially if you actually do look up the history as you go along playing the game. But let's talk about the actual game itself, because that's really important. I think a lot of people who are going to play this game, and I seriously doubt it will get a localization. It could, it's possible, but it seems like the least likely candidate, because at least the other Yakuza games have, the kind of benefit of being in modern day without using all these weird historical figures, where this game is like dense with historical figures. Like, I gotta look up everybody, essentially. So, yeah. So I assume that most people who play this are going to be playing it without the benefit of knowing Japanese. So you probably want to know about the gameplay, which is how everything works. And if you've played Yakuza 4 or 5, it's actually a little different. The systems aren't the same. So, for example, in Yakuza 4 and 5, all the sub-stories were marked on the map when you could go to them and find them. In Ishin, they're only partially marked on the map, and there's lots of there's extra layers to the sub stories now, as opposed to just like you finish the story and you don't interact with the characters again. You'll often have sub stories where the characters have a story and you can finish it really quickly, but then they have like a kind of friend meter or something, your kind of closeness to that sub character, and you can talk to them a bunch of times and do a bunch of things for them, and then eventually you'll be able to get a special bonus from them or a benefit from becoming friends with them. So, and you also get more story elements that are all the sub story elements, at least, not the main story. But there's a lot of a lot of benefits to becoming friends with everybody in the game, is what I'm trying to say. But continuing on with that, the main focus of the game is obviously the kind of fighting and leveling and stuff. So let's talk about that. The fighting is different from your normal Yakuza games. It does have the regular punching, though. You have actually 4 fighting styles. You have regular hand-to-hand combat punching, which I mained as my main fighting style for some reason. I just like the fighting in the Yakuza games. So I put all of my upgrade points from when I leveled up. Each time you level up, you get points. Put almost all of those into maxing out my hand-to-hand. But you have 3 other styles. You have the gun style, using handguns, and then you have sword style, the single sword style, which is just using a samurai sword. It's easily the strongest style. That the sword and the gun style are like the strongest styles, because you can destroy all the bosses pretty much with the gun style. And then there's the mix style, which is the worst style. Actually, it uses both the sword and the gun. It's fast and it's good for crowd management, but it's weak. It doesn't do a lot of damage. So you have these styles you can switch between on the fly, and I essentially use the the hand-to-hand for grappling a lot. I just grabbed everybody and punched them and throw them. Um, but, you know, later on in the game, you'll probably almost exclusively use the sword or the gun styles because they're the strongest, essentially. But you do have the 4 styles, and you can train them all separately, so you get special attacks and special moves for each style, and there's trainers for each style, so you'll be able to go through the game and, you know, level up your skills, and then unlock a bunch of new skills as you gain levels. So, you know, it's a standard kind of RPG elements. It's got all... I mean, this is an action RPG. Don't let anybody, like, try to fool you into thinking that it's like a Grand Theft Auto game, because it's not even remotely close to that. The Yakuza series is an action RPG, and it's a great one. Essentially, you go around and fight a lot of people, do a lot of side quests and main quests, get experience, level up, learn new skills, get better items. It's an RPG. That's all I can say. And it's one of the best action RPGs going. Sega really has, with the acquisition of Atlas, Sega is like now the owner of all the best RPGs, essentially. At least half of my favorite RPG series are now owned by Sega. So Sega knows what they're doing with their RPGs, especially this one. And so beyond the fighting styles, where you have all these fightings, you have missions, you have side missions, and you have actual dungeons to go into. So I'll get into that. Main story missions are always on the map. They're always lit up, and they usually take place within the kind of they're usually taking place in the story in a building or something. So the story missions have you mostly running around town, talking to people, getting into sometimes hilarious battles. There are some really great battles in the story missions where there's, you know, of course, nobody has tattoos in this game like in the original game, so there can't be a shirtless tattooed men fighting on the top of a building like all Yakuza games. But there is the most homoerotic battle I've ever seen in a game, where 2 completely naked muscle dudes fight each other hand to hand in a shower. That's in the game. It's in there, and I was like, I couldn't stop laughing through that whole battle. It was really funny because like they all have like a little cloud of mist that follows them around to cover their sensitive areas, I guess. But it's in essentially like a bathhouse, and these 2 are fighting naked. Yeah, that's in there. But it's so funny. It's such a weird thing to happen in the game, and it's unexpected, and it's like, I think one of the hallmarks of the series is that all these kind of weird and unexpected things happen, but the stories are usually serious. So usually the main story is quite serious and quite interesting, but there'll be a million sub-stories where there's all this kind of weird crap going on, where like there's all these bizarre characters or kind of weirdos that you meet. And this game is exactly like that. So beyond the main mission, which mostly takes place, as I said, starts out in Tosa, moves to Kyoto. There's like 1 mission in Tokyo, the final mission, I believe. And then but pretty much after that, you've got a ton of side missions to do. I think about almost 70 side missions. And the side missions tend to range from, you know, simple like people who are looking for things. So like some, you know, there's like crazy like lady who is looking always wants you to bring her kind of phallic shaped vegetables, and you know she gets really like flirty and excited when you bring her the phallic shaped vegetables, and they just get bigger and bigger every time. That's you know, there's the missions are like that, but there's also like interesting ones where there's this kind of like dancing party cult that forms. And that is actually, I thought that was really interesting, but it's actually a historical thing that happened, which I also thought was cool because, like, in the story, it doesn't seem like realistic, but it actually is something that happened. So, from the description of it, it actually seemed pretty similar to like what was happening in the game. So, there was stuff like that too that was interesting in the sub stories, and you meet a lot of people like sumo wrestler who's always hungry and he wants you to bring him food all the time, and there's lots of side missions where you can meet a bunch of people and who are like trying to do certain things. You meet a foreigner samurai named Tom, and he's like supposed to be like Tom Cruise, the Last Samurai, um, and you become his trainer. There's like all types of goofy side missions like that, but there's also but beyond that, there's like tons of mini games to do. You can work at restaurants for extra money. You can make ramen, and the shops are cool too because you have all these like modern day chain stores like Don Quixote and stuff, but they're made in this kind of Bakumatsu period version of those modern day chains. So you'll go in, there'll be like like a department store that's obviously not realistic, but it's based on the modern day chain. So you get like stuff like convenience stores and things like that that are in the game. So it's fun stuff like that. But then beyond all that, you've got there's a battle arena, so you can do 100-man battle where you fight 100 guys. You have to try to get through 100 guys without dying, and then you have a one-on-one kind of battle versus boss level enemies. There's stuff like that, but you've also got new to this version of the game. You have this thing called Another Life, where it's like you have a house. You have a house and you grow crops and you have animals to take care of. It's like Farmville, or something like Animal Crossing, but in Yakuza. So it's many times more awesome. But you do, you can like, you have a thing called the spirit points or whatever, that you get these, you can use these points to kind of upgrade your house, so you can buy better decorations, you can buy clothes, you can buy different types of crops to grow. And as you grow more crops, you can start selling them, and you'll get more spirit points. You can go fishing and sell the fish to get more of those points to upgrade your fishing rods. You can upgrade your house, you can upgrade the field. There's lots of kind of Animal Crossing elements, and it's actually a lot of fun to do that. I had a lot of fun doing that. Eventually, once you max everything out, it's like the easiest way to make money in the game is to grow crops, because you'll get a lot of fertilizers later on, or you can use them to speed up the crop growth, and you'll get a ton of money. And it means like you don't have to ever kind of grind for money. Like in some of the other games, you would have kind of run out of money at points where you would just be like, I need to either gamble or do something else to get some money. But in this game, you never have to. You can just do it all with the farming, and it takes care of a lot of the kind of more expensive things where you'll be upgrading weapons to sometimes give away. And I'll get into that too, because part of the Another Life thing is also you have these kind of dungeons. You have actual dungeons to go into to fight. And the dungeon crawling part is actually part of the group you belong to, the Shinsengumi, which is, anybody who knows history knows that that's a real group, but Sakamoto Ryoma was not part of the Shinsengumi, but he is in this game. And when you're there, you have these missions to go into dungeons and hunt down like deserters, or hunt down these kind of local brigands, or people who have kidnapped local people, and you're going in there to save them, or catch these people. So you'll go through plenty of dungeons. I don't remember how many there are, but there are a lot. It's split into 3 sections, kind of easy, medium, and hard. And you can go in there, and in the dungeons are a really good source to get upgrade materials to make new weapons. So by doing the dungeons, you can start upgrading your swords and guns to be stronger and to do more damage, or have special effects like stun or electric bullets, and stuff like that. So you get all these different kinds of and the sword effects are also like that. So you can have like a flaming sword, or you can have a poison sword, or kind of these mystical swords that you can get later on in the game. So there's a lot of options for that. It's really interesting. So the dungeon crawling is a lot of fun. And the benefit to this is that Sega did something awesome. They did something amazing with this, the dungeon crawling and the farming section. They made a free application for the PlayStation Vita where you can do three things. You can do the farming and the housework stuff. You can do gambling, and you can do the dungeon crawling, all on the Vita for free. It's if you own the game, you can unlock everything in all the dungeons and all the farming levels on the Vita for free. It didn't cost me anything, and I played tons of time. I put a ton of time into the Vita application just doing the dungeon crawling. So, and easily you can just upload and download the save files like the normal way you would do a shared file between the Vita and the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4, and it works flawlessly. You get all the levels and all the leveling up on the Vita and on the PS4, and they swap data back and forth. It takes about 2 seconds. It's really sweet, and it gives me hope that they're gonna actually make another Yakuza game on the handhelds, like another Chrono Hero game. That would be really nice, because now you already know they have the know-how. They already have made this game, essentially parts of the game, on the Vita, and they put a bunch of effort into making a free application, which I would have bought. I would have paid for that application because it was really good. But it was free, and I hope Sega and other companies do similar things like that with their games, because it was actually like one of the coolest parts of that was having the Vita application that I could just do some easy dungeon crawling while I was on the train or something, and then sync it up when I got home and have those extra bonus levels or bonus materials to make better weapons in the main game. There's so much fun with this game. I just had so much fun with it. This series is like really, it's one of my favorite game series, just hands down one of my favorite game series. And usually these games, as they go along, get better and better. And there's been some stumbles. I mean, Of the End is probably the worst game in the series. It's not to say that it's awful. It's just kind of mediocre. And but this one I wouldn't say it's better than 5, and probably it's not better than 4, but it is really good. And to say that it's not better than 4 or 5 means that it's not like, it doesn't mean that it's bad at all, and it doesn't mean that it's like even mediocre, because it's a stupendous game. It's absolutely worth having, absolutely worth playing. Probably will be one of my top games of the year, I'd say, because of how good it is. But I don't know what else to say. There's a lot to talk about with this game, because there's so much content. I think it took about, I don't even know, 80 hours to beat, and that's like 80 hours to beat all the sub stories. I did the main story, all the sub stories, and all the dungeons, and of course I maxed out my Another Life stuff too. But doing that, only that. Well, I mean, only that. That's like that was about 80 hours of gameplay. But that's only about 50. I think I finished with about 58% completion rate or something. That means like I didn't even do about 40% of the content of the game, which was mostly like mini games and working at the restaurants and stuff. I didn't do a lot of that. So there are a bunch of like music rhythm games. There is the karaoke makes a reappearance, even though it's approximation 200 years ago approximation of karaoke. And then there's like a weird fan dancing mini game that's like, it is a music rhythm game, but there's that, and of course all the mini games for working at restaurants and maxing out your relationships with all the shop owners and building all the weapons. I didn't do all of that. Usually in the Yakuza games I don't do all the mini game stuff. I get bored with that stuff quickly. But I always do all the 100% side story completion, 100% story completion, and all of the character interactions. So again, that's what I did with this one, and it's totally worth playing this game. Um, I'm trying to think of what else is there. I'm sure I'm leaving out a bunch of stuff. The fishing is really fun. I only briefly mentioned it, but you can catch really big fish in this, sharks and things. It's pretty awesome. But the fishing is not as in depth as it was. It's not. It's less like if you've ever played it like Yakuza 4. The fishing is essentially Sega Bass fishing. That's essentially what it is. It's just like a mini game version of Sega Bass fishing. But now it's a much quicker mini game. There's no real fish fighting. You just have to kind of hit the rod at the exact right moment to get the fish, and then once you hook it, it just automatically flips it out of the water. So it's not quite as in depth as it used to be, but it's still fun, and you can catch a lot of weird ass fish. Um, there is a cooking thing also when instead of selling your crops and your fish, you can cook them. So there's like a cooking mini game, like it's like a Cooking Mama starring starring Kazuma Kiryu, and you kind of it's just like a it's like playing Cooking Mama. It really is. Like you just kind of hit the buttons at the right time, or flip cooking fish at the right time, or you have some little tells to tell when you should be flipping or when you should be cutting, and it's fun actually. You can do that a lot to get food items, and the food items act as your healing in the game. So if you cook your own food, you can use it in your inventory. So like if you're fighting a battle, you can instead of like buying stuff at the store, and the medicines you can buy at the store are actually pretty weak, unlike the main series. So cooking is actually your best way to get healing items in the game. So usually I think if you play, you'll probably want to do the cooking because it's very helpful for recovery items, which are sometimes necessary in the dungeons. Not so much in the story battles. Like most of that is pretty easy, but the dungeons get pretty hard on the high levels. They're easy in the beginning, but once you get towards the end and you have like rooms full of spear guys, the spear guys are bastards. Um, you'll know what I mean. There's ninjas also that are bastards in the hard levels. But yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to say about this that I can think of right now. Obviously I didn't take notes, and I'm just kind of rambling off the top of my head, as I always do. I mean, if you watch my videos, you should know that by now, so I don't even know why I'm explaining. But essentially, this game, it's definitely worth playing. It's easily the best game on the PS4 right now. I can't There's like pretty much nothing else I'd want to play on the PS4 right now except this. And I'm glad I got this. And it will probably continue to be one of the best games on the PS4 for a really long time. So that's about all I'm going to say about Yakuza Ishin. Get it if you think you can handle it. And hopefully it'll get localized for you guys so you can, I don't know, join in on the fun, because seriously, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's about it. I will catch you guys in some other video some other time, probably soon. So see you next time.